Welcome. We are so excited that you are here. I'm Dr. Daniel Amen. I am here with my beautiful wife, Tana.
And the Brain Warriors Way is just so special to both of us. So thank you for joining us on this journey. And we're going to jump in and tell you what we're all about.
Well, we have a mission, and it's a big mission, and we're grateful that the thousands of you are part of it. And our mission is to build a community of brain warriors who will create lasting health in themselves, teach others, and together we will literally transform the health of our world. Because as you're going to hear us say, the world's going in the wrong direction, and we need warriors to get us back on track.
And we're already headed towards that goal. So we had a goal of 500 people. We ended up with 16,000 people signed up for this course. So we are really excited.
So here's what you can expect over the next 6 months. That we are going to meet every week. This is our commitment to you at this time, 5:30 Pacific time, for 6 months. All of the lessons are going to be archived. So if you miss a lesson because you're out of town or you just skipped it and played hooky, we're going to archive the lessons for you. Or if you saw something you really liked and you want your family to see it, you can go back on and watch it again.
Yes, you can just replay it.
You can earn up to 6 Brain Warrior Belt certificates. We're going to teach you how to do that. They're really cool looking, designed by our amazing graphic arts team. And in order to unlock a belt, you have to watch 4 lessons and complete the monthly journal. Now, we have a journal we want you to start filling out, and the reason we do that is we want to collect this information to see where you're at now and then follow your progress over time. We don't do anything else with the information. It's our word to you. We don't sell it. We don't give it away. It's very important we know where you're starting.
So, this sounds complicated. It's not. These forms are really simple. It's really our way of keeping you engaged with us. And we're going to be offering different incentives along the way. So you'll want to stay tuned with us. Keep watching. And also, we want you to share that information with the rest of the tribe, but it's up to you. So if you give us permission, we will. If you do not, we will not.
So there will be prizes and incentives, as Tana said, for each belt that you complete. And our promise to you is that we're going to give you the best of what we have for the next 6 months. Course is completely free. You don't ever have to buy anything. Of course, we're going to tell you about Amen Clinics and what we do here. We'll tell you about BrainMD Health, which is our supplement and education company for those who want and need more. And our promise is if you do what we ask you to do, it will help transform your life.
So we know that you are joining us from very different places. We've got 16,000 of you coming from all over the world, different places in your health journey. And we want to make sure we are meeting you where you're at. For some of you, joining us for this free class is what you can do, and it's all you might need, and that's great. You will get everything you need from that. But for others, we know that you need more or you want more. So we're going to teach you how to take that deeper dive with us. Just stick with us through this, and we're going to go into all of that throughout these next 6 months.
What we need from you, be patient. We thought, 500 people would sign up, and nearly 16,000 people have signed up.
We are super excited. We're honored, and we're grateful.
And between now and October, we actually want 100,000 people, and you can invite your friends, your family, your churches, your businesses to join us. And the people can join at any time because we're going to archive all of the lessons that we do. So if you miss one or you find one particularly compelling and you want to watch it when you're working out, we'll have that available to you.
And what it means is we just need you to work with us a little bit because we know that there are going to be literally thousands of questions coming in. We want to be able to answer them all. We're going to be working to get to them, but just understand that it's going to take us a little time.
So we also want your participation, your energy, your questions. your results that will inspire others, because it's a tribe, it's your tribe, and tribes require inspiring stories. We also want your understanding with our team. They've just worked tirelessly.
Yeah, they've been
and
amazing.
We are grateful to them, and we're grateful to you for joining us. So, for those of you that don't know, you can follow us on Facebook at Tana Amen BSN RN or at Dr. Daniel Amen. Both of us do live chats. There's lots of videos, lots of articles, lots of free resources. And you can also sign up for Tana's newsletter at tanaamen.com.
So what we're going to be doing with the newsletter, and a lot of you will want to do this if you need extra support, everything is going to now be centered around this class. So each week there's going to be new recipes, there's going to be tips, and like a menu, a sample menu that you are welcome to use with a shopping list. So you might want to think about that as support as you go through this journey.
Yeah, lots of
And there's
great
tons of
resources
recipes
for you.
on the website anyways at tanaamen.com.
All right, so we're going to kick this off by telling you a bit about how we became brain warriors and why this is such an important concept to us.
So some of you have heard my story, but it is, for those of you joining for the first time, I grew up with a lot of trauma and a lot of drama in my family. What I never really understood was the connection between bad food and chronic stress, and that combination really did a number on my health. So I'm very honored to have my mom here tonight. I think this is the best Mother's Day gift you can give someone. It's free, and if you love your mom, keep her healthy. So, but in my house, we didn't know growing up. My mom was working really hard, and I was sick a lot. We had illness on both sides of the family, so it was diabetes, heart disease, cancer. My grandmother lived with us and she was diabetic, and I was giving her insulin shots by the time I was 11. But I was a frequent flyer in the hospital. I was one of those kids who was constantly sick. Antibiotics, always, going through some crazy illness or other. And then I got thyroid cancer when I was 23 that had metastasized and came back several times, which shouldn't have happened with that kind of cancer, but it did. So I went into a deep depression. And anyways, life was really sort of challenging growing up in this environment. And I never made the connection between my mental health and my physical health. But we all have defining moments in our lives. And one of my most defining moments was when I was 15. And I was walking to high school, and I was attacked on the street by a random stranger. And he grabbed me and he tried to pull me down an alley, and he was grabbing at very personal parts of my body, and it was a very scary moment. And I knew if I did not fight very hard, I was going to be raped. So I fought as hard as I could with no training. I managed to get away from him. But I remember being really scared for a couple of days after that and thinking, wow, just because someone's bigger than I am, they can overpower me. And then my next thought was, that's ridiculous. That's nonsense. I'm not willing to go through life being scared because of someone else's ignorance or stupidity. And so I decided at that moment that I was going to become a warrior. I could be a victim or I could be a warrior, and I could develop that skill set. So I learned how to fight, and I was not kidding about it. I wanted to be empowered, and I took on that mindset. What I never saw coming was the attack that came 8 years later with no fanfare. It was a sucker punch out of left field and knocked me flat on the mat because it was cancer. And when you have a fight with your own health, it is so much worse than when you're fighting with someone you can see. And I did feel like a victim. So all that, mindset stuff that I thought that I had down went right out the window. And I felt like a victim. And I got extremely depressed. At one point, I was so sick, I was on 9 medications, taking medications to manage the side effects of other medications, and extremely frustrated through the process. And the doctor told me that I should be grateful for all the medications that were available, that I was in denial, and maybe I should see a psychiatrist.
That is not how we met.
I highly recommend them. But it was frustrating. And I, at some point in that process, realized it's not different. I can use this same metaphor. I can use the same mindset to be a warrior for my health. I can be a victim or I can be a warrior. And for me, that's why I think of it as a war. That's why I think of it as being a warrior and not taking it lying down. That's what we want for you.
So my path is different than Tana's. I grew up the third of 7 children. I think of my mother as a saint. She's here as well. How you can manage 7 children. Growing up, my dad called me a maverick, and to him, that was not a good thing. 1972, the Army called my draft number, and I was trained as an infantry medic, where my love of medicine was born. But about a year of doing that, I realized I really hated the idea of being shot at or sleeping in the mud, and got myself retrained as an X-ray technician and developed a passion for medical imaging. As our professors used to say, how do you know unless you look? So imaging was really important to me when I was 19 years old. 1979, I'm now a second-year medical student at Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and someone I cared deeply about tried to kill herself. And I came to realize that she needed psychiatric help. And so I took her to the chief of psychiatry at my medical school, and as he treated her, I got this thought that if he helps her, which he did, it just wouldn't help her, it would help her children and even her future grandchildren, as they would be shaped by someone who was happier and more stable. So I fell in love with psychiatry because I realized it has the potential to change literally generations of people. And over the last 7 years that I've been a psychiatrist, I've loved every single day of it. But about 10 years into being a psychiatrist, I went to a lecture on brain SPECT imaging. You know, psychiatrists are the only medical doctors who virtually never look at the organ they treat. Think about that. Now, as an imaging person and a psychiatrist, I just thought that was wrong. And so in 1991, I went to a lecture on brain SPECT imaging. That's the study we do here at Amen Clinics. And literally it revolutionized my life. When you put imaging with psychiatry, it literally changed everything. The doctor who gave the lecture said, this is a tool that can help psychiatrists get more information to more effectively help their patients. And SPECT looks at blood flow and activity. It looks at how the brain works. So on the screen, the image on the left is a healthy scan, full, even, symmetrical activity. The image on the right is one of my first patients who had 2 strokes that had not been diagnosed. She saw us in the hospital for resistant depression. Here's a picture of Alzheimer's disease. We're going to talk a lot about Alzheimer's disease in this course, where you can see the back half of the brain is deteriorating. This is someone with traumatic brain injury. We're going to talk a lot about that. Brain is soft, skull is hard. And one of the big lessons I learned was that a lot of psychiatric patients, it really was the effects of traumatic brain injuries. And then I was the director of a dual diagnosis unit. It's a psychiatric hospital unit that takes care of drug addicts, so I did that. And my drug addict scans were just awful. In fact, these were so awful, I brought them home to my 4 children and effectively induced anxiety disorders in all 4 of them when it comes to substance abuse. Imaging just changes everything. You know, you've heard it said, a picture is worth 1,000 words. But a map is worth 1,000 pictures. A map tells you where you are and gives you direction on how to get to where you want to go. And without a map, and so many people in psychiatry, they never get imaged, and so the doctors are throwing darts in the dark at them. And I just thought, we can do better. And here at Amen Clinics, we do better because imaging is part of what we do. But really, what was the path to becoming a warrior for the health of my brain? it started with my mother. So in 1991, I scanned everybody I knew that would let me scan them, and I scanned my mom, and she had a stunningly beautiful brain. She had the best brain of anybody that I had ever seen. And then I scanned myself, and it was not nearly as good. And she was 60, and I was 37. And I was irritated. Because why did my brain look so bad? I don't use drugs, I didn't smoke, but I played football in high school. A third of people who played football at any level have lasting brain damage. I also had meningitis when I was a young soldier in the Army. And I had a lot of bad brain habits that only now I realize. I didn't sleep more than 4 hours a night. I was chronically stressed, building practice. I was overweight. Diet soda was my best friend. I ate a lot of fast food. And, it's crazy, right? I'm a psychiatrist, and I don't care about my brain because I had never seen it. As soon as I saw it and compared it to my mom's, I'm like, okay, I have to be serious about this. And 20 years later, which was my last scan, my brain's fuller, fatter, healthier. And that's one of the big lessons you're going to get out of this class. You're not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better. I can prove it with myself and thousands of patients we've seen here at Amen Clinics. The scans changed everything for my children's lives because, quite frankly, if you dated one of my kids for more than 4 months, I scanned you. These are my 2 son-in-laws. My son is now engaged. I scanned his. It's like Meet the Parents, but worse. And it changed everything in my love life. I got divorced about 16 years ago, and I thought, if I ever get married again, the most important part of this person's anatomy I want to see is the health of their brain.
And I have never felt so naked.
I met Tana 10 years ago on New Year's Day, and I really liked her. I mean, yes, she's beautiful, but she's also really smart. She's a neurosurgical ICU nurse. She's very articulate. She's caring, and I'm like, oh, I really like her. And so about 2 weeks after we met, I said, you haven't seen the clinic yet. Do you want to come see the clinic? And you can see the look on her face as Mike, our technologist, is getting ready to inject her with the medicine to do the scan. So we scanned her. Her brain was beautiful, and several years later, I married her. So it changed everything in my love life. Unfortunately, turning 60 for me, it was weird. I mean, I didn't really care about 40, and 50 I didn't really care about. But 60 was odd because I know what happens to aging brains. If you're not serious, if you're not a warrior for the health of your brain, and this is based on a study we did on 20,000 people, gets less and less and less active. So sort of like as your skin falls off your face, as you age, the same process happens in your brain. So a typical 55-year-old brain, an 82-year-old brain, which is just awful. But here's a friend of mine, Doris Rapp, who's 82, has a stunningly beautiful brain. Brain aging is optional if you're serious about the health of your brain. We have this huge, some people think of me as a pioneer in this whole brain imaging thing, and I often say we're bleeding on the cutting edge. But we got an honor earlier this year I just have to share. Discover Magazine did the top 100 stories in science for 2015. And the 18th most important story was Tesla charges into renewable energy storage. And that was really cool. Number 20 was the discovery of a vegetarian dinosaur species. And Amen Clinics was number 19. We are so proud of this. And it was our work showing we could separate post-traumatic stress disorder, so emotional trauma, much of what you went through growing up, from traumatic brain injury, physical trauma, 90% of the time. And this is really important because it helps doctors know what they're dealing with so people can get appropriate treatment. We're going to talk a lot about scans throughout this course, but I just want to leave you with, so what is the most exciting lesson I've learned from 120,000 scans? So now we've done 120,000 scans on people from 111 countries. We literally have the world's largest database of brain images related to mental health. And I'm so excited about this because the lesson is simple. You're not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better even if you've been bad to your brain. So we did the world's largest study on active and retired NFL players. So people have been hit in the head thousands of times, and 80% of our players show improvement when we put them on a program just exactly like the one we're going to share with you. But let's just be really clear. You're in a war for the health of your brain.
Yes, you are. So, everywhere you go, someone is trying to shove bad food down your throat that will kill you early. In fact, our 12-and-a-half-year-old came home from school the other day, and she's been trying so hard to get back on track after just flaunting in our faces how much she has been pushing back for the last 2 years. So it's been beautiful. She's been really working on getting super healthy. And she comes home and she's like, do you have any idea how hard it is to eat healthy when you go to middle school? She's like, it's ridiculous. All they have is garbage. She's like, not only do they just sell garbage, but all of my friends are like constantly trying to like push their food on me. And she's trying really hard to eat healthy. So it was frustrating to her. Everywhere you go, including the places that need it the most, need healthy food the most. Places like hospitals, drug rehab centers, schools. They're serving food.
Churches, prisons.
Right.
I mean, almost everywhere you go, people are trying to give you bad food, and they just don't know that it's the cause of your early death.
These are the real weapons of mass destruction, so make no mistake about it. When you eat highly processed pesticide sprayed, high glycemic, low fiber, and food-like substances that are not real food, you are at risk to become as sick or sicker than I was. So I'm really lucky. My story has a very happy ending. I'm the healthiest I've ever been in my late 40s. But if you don't change the way that you are eating, you're at risk. And we've got hundreds of studies that we will show you throughout these 26 weeks to prove it to you. So stay with us. But when a clown and a king can march into your living room at any given time and bribe your kids with toys that hook the neuroscience centers in their brains, it's time to fight back. You got to shut the TV off. And guess what? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to bribe our kids the same way, actually make positive neuro connections, make those positive associations to healthy food and a healthy lifestyle. We're not going to just take that lying down. So we're going to shut the TV off, get them excited about healthy food, and that's what we're going to teach you how to do. I'm not taking the Girl Scouts on. You can have that one. Little girls in pigtails win every time.
It's a war. I mean, this poisonous behavior is pervasive. Even recruiting children to sell candy, which we know increases the risk of diabetes, or unhealthy cookies loaded with bad fats and sugar. It's crazy. And Tana and I helped to create a program for Saddleback Church called the Daniel Plan, and we had a big rally there, and the campus was, was so crowded, and I'm thinking everybody's here for the Daniel Plan. And no, Girl Scouts had rented out half the campus for Girl Scout pickup.
He was so
Girl Scout
irritated.
Cookie pickup day, and I'm like, that's nuts. Why are we recruiting little children to push illness? And then the next day, on a news station in San Francisco, a Girl Scout sells cookies outside of a pot dispensary and sold 117 boxes in 2 hours.
She was smart, though.
Yes, she's smart. And what we're doing is we're smoking pot and eating cookies. This is not the sign of intelligent life. And if you actually go inside the pot dispensary, Girl Scout cookies, 19.8% THC. This is not what we should be doing as a society. And it's not just food. News channels repeatedly pour toxic images into our minds, making us see fear and disaster around every corner because they know the human brain is wired to pay attention to negativity before it does positivity, leaving you constantly feel stressed and afraid. And then technology companies continually, they always have, what's the launch this year of the new addictive gadget that hooks your attention and distracts you from your loved ones. The human attention span, according to a study from Microsoft, is now 8 seconds. The attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. This is evolution going the wrong way. In 2000, the human attention span was 12 seconds, so we've lost nearly a third of our attention span in just 15 years, and it's because of the gadgets that we are addicted to. So let us be really clear. Your competitive advantage, this is what this large imaging database has taught me. Your competitive advantage in life or your disadvantage is the actual physical functioning of your brain. Your brain is involved in everything you do, how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you get along with other people. Your brain is the organ of intelligence, character, and every single decision you make. And when your brain works right, you work right. But when your brain is troubled, for whatever reason, you're much more likely to have trouble in your life. If you have a healthy brain, you are happier, you are physically healthier. Why? You make better decisions. You're also wealthier. Why? You make better decisions. When your brain is not healthy, for whatever reason, people are sadder, they're sicker, they're poor, they're less successful. So we want all of you to begin to develop this concept we call brain envy, really care about the health of your brain. Freud was wrong. Penis envy is not the cause of most of your trouble. He was too low in the body. It's the fat between your ears that you need to care about.
So you and your children are in a war for the health of your brain and bodies. But it's a war you can win if you pay attention. So Alzheimer's disease is expected to quadruple by the year 2050. There's no cure on the horizon. It affects 50% of people 85 and older. So if you plan on living to 85, or if the people in your family live to be 85, you've got a 50% chance of getting Alzheimer's disease if you don't pay attention and start doing something.
And we think it's preventable.
Right.
And how you prevent it? You prevent all the risk factors for Alzheimer's disease, and being unhealthy, obese, diabetic, having sleep apnea, are massive risk factors for this.
And it starts in your brain decades before you have any symptoms.
So this is really important. This is a 59-year-old woman I diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. You can see the back half of her brain deteriorating. Odds are she had changes in her brain in her 20s and 30s. So don't be the person that goes, well, I'm really not going to take my health seriously until I start to get sick. Bad idea.
You can't show up on fight day and think you're going to win if you haven't been training. You need to be training every day.
Which is why we love this warrior concept.
Depression, it's one of the greatest killers in our society. It affects 50 million Americans. It's up 400% since 1987. 400%. 23% of women are taking antidepressants. But did you know that birth control pills deplete both magnesium and B vitamins? So knowing that is really important. And you're going to learn things like that.
And serotonin.
Yes. So Alzheimer's disease, the risk of Alzheimer's disease is skyrocketing.
In depression. So it doubles in women, quadruples in men. And some people think late life depression is actually a prodrome or early onset dementia. So it's something that's very important to take care of.
So diabetes, prediabetes, this is personal to me. My grandmother had diabetes, so I know what this is like. She died from the effects of diabetes. It affects 50% of our population now. So the new study said that 50% of the population in America are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. That's crazy. That's just crazy that we're not taking this more seriously.
And it's driven by lifestyle.
Right. It damages the blood vessels in every organ in your body, literally every organ. So the effects of diabetes and prediabetes: strokes, blindness, depression, dementia, amputation. So if you look at that picture, my grandmother would have had to have her toes amputated if she hadn't died of heart disease first. But she did go legally blind. So that's why I was giving her insulin shots by the time I was 11. My mom was working all the time. So it's a very serious disease, and it's responsible for so many other diseases, which means if you just get rid of the diabetes or prevent it, you will prevent so many other diseases.
So is that why you became a nurse?
It's a part of it. It's one part of it. Obesity is a serious national crisis. 2/3 of our population are overweight and 1/3 are obese. It's a risk factor for 30 medical illnesses, including cancer, diabetes, depression, and dementia. Dozens of studies show that as your weight goes up, the size and physical functioning of your brain goes down. It's not a good thing.
Should scare the fat off anyone.
What is that you say, that when it comes to the brain?
Size matters. It's the only organ where size really does matter. Well, and so I coined a term a long time ago that Tana said I should actually never say out loud. Is called the dinosaur syndrome.
He never listens to me.
Big body, little brain, you're going to become extinct. And it's rude, and I apologize, but my favorite Bible verse is John 8:32. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And I thought once I actually wrote about it and started talking about it, I'd get a lot of hate mail, not one. But we have had people like Steve who told us they lost 400 pounds because they didn't want to be a dinosaur. The answer to this problem, to all these problems, is to not see them as separate disorders, but rather as different expressions of the same unhealthy lifestyle that have exactly the same
So this is important
cure.
because what it really means, if you think about this, it means that there are a lot of ways to get sick. But there's really one way to get healthy. Does that mean you might have to tweak the program for you depending on what you've got going on in your life and your important numbers, which we're going to talk about? Yes, but there's one main way to get healthy, because what's good for the brain is good for the heart, is good for the rest of your body. See, I didn't say it. That was good.
Stay with us. So what's the cure? So it's actually what we call the Brain Warriors Way. This is, over the last 35 years for me, and over Tana's career, we have basically put the best of both of our work together and came up with a very simple 7-step program to help you develop mastery over your brain and body.
This is by far my favorite thing we do. I'm the most passionate about this, and it's just got so much great information.
So it starts with mindset. You got to get your mind right. That's what most programs miss. This is not about deprivation. It's about abundance. It's just abundance of the right things so that we can deprive you of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, strokes, depression, and dementia. But you got to get your brain wrapped around that, and we'll help you do that.
And it's about knowing your why, because if you don't know your why, you won't do your what. So we're going to help you really figure out and tap into your why. Why are you doing this? Why do you need to be healthy?
And we're going to talk about that tonight. And you have to assess your brain. Because if you don't assess it, you actually don't know where you're at. And we'll teach you about assessment.
And sustenance, we're going to go into the fuel and food for a warrior. So warriors eat to win. Food is either fuel that drives success or it is driving failure. So we're going to teach you which foods will help you win the war.
Say that again. Foods either
fuel success
or
drive failure.
That is so important. And I did a live chat recently, and I said, kill the sugar before the sugar kills you. Mm-hmm. Because food fuels success or it drives failure. Under sustenance, we'll also talk about what supplements help the brain. And then we're going to talk about training and habits. What are the things you should do every day to stay healthy?
Essence is one of my favorite parts of our program. I mean, they're all important, but Essence is really, if you are in this program or in any program, there's a good chance you've had pain in your life. If not yourself, then someone you love, you're a caretaker or something has happened. We want to teach you to turn your pain into purpose, to use it as leverage, and ask yourself why the world is a better place because you breathe.
So you could wallow in the assault, in the stress
be
growing up,
terrified.
in the cancer. Or
Kick its
what
butt.
I've seen you do is not only get healthy, but then share it with other people, turning pain into
Absolutely.
purpose. Responsibility, ultimately, it's not about you. It's about generations of you. We're going to talk about epigenetics and how your habits turn on or off certain genes that make illness more or less likely in you, but also in your babies and your grandbabies. So when a little girl is born, she's born with all the eggs she'll ever have, and then her habits throughout her life are turning on or off those genes, making illness more or less likely in herself, yes, but also in her kids. So, I mean, this is serious stuff, and I want you to take responsibility to get well and then to help get your community well, because ultimately, if you're going to keep this, you're going to have to give it away. And then you got to do it for years long. I mean, you didn't get your black belt in 4 weeks.
No, and I wouldn't have appreciated it if I did. And anyone who's selling you on a 4-hour this or that or an 8-day whatever, it's a lie. I'm sorry, there's just no other way to say it. That is because the human attention span is like a goldfish. They know they have to say that to hook you, but it's not real. If you don't do this long term, it won't work long term.
Now, you may very well, like many, many, many of our patients, feel better in 10 days.
No question.
And some people have even lost 10 pounds in 10 days or 15 pounds in 15 days.
But
that's not the point.
It's not the point.
It's not the goal. The goal is to get you healthy for the rest of your life. So if you're looking for 10 pounds in 10 days so you can get an address and then go back to your bad habits, we are not the place for you. We want you to be armed and prepared to get healthy for the rest of your life.
And we want to help people who we can help. And if you aren't serious, it might not be the right thing for you. We want you to be healthy, not just fit into a pair of jeans. You'll fit into the jeans if you get healthy, but it won't be the other way around.
I actually like that. I'm in the same size jeans I was when I was in high school, and I could not say that until I actually got really healthy.
Right.
So talk about belts. So we have a belt system. Talk about that.
So, I love this concept of the Brain Warriors Way, and we want you to stay engaged with us. And so let me just give you a brief rundown of just the first 2 belts. You're starting out as a white belt. And by the way, a black belt is just a white belt who shows up every day. When people go, oh my gosh, that sounds so hard, you just got to show up and be with us, stay engaged. So as you're a white belt and you're starting out on this, we already know what you're going to go through. I remember my master telling me the same thing, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so hard, this is so crazy, I can't do this, my body won't work like this, because that's what it feels like. White belt represents innocence. You're fresh, you're untainted, you don't really know what's going on yet. Everything feels really hard though. You feel like it's just awkward. You're like deer in the headlights, and that's what we see with people that join our program. It's like deer in the headlights. We know that that's gonna happen. Just stay with us. You're vulnerable at this point. We know that, so we're gonna give you strategies to deal with the vulnerabilities you're gonna go through. And you don't feel confident about your program yet. You have 0 confidence in your skill. That's all normal. It takes major practice and constant repetition and a tribe of people surrounding you who can help you through that process. It's very important. What we recommend is you keep your materials visible. So during this stage, I'll often tell people, the simple things we give you to do, the worksheets, no joke. Tape them up to your mirror. Tape them, put them on a cork board. Or one thing I did, and this is so corny, but oh well, this is what I did when I was first making big changes in my life. One of those big giant poster boards, and I just wrote out all the little things we're gonna give you to do, the exercises, put them all on one little board, and then put that up somewhere. Keep it visible. And it's gonna feel, we call this the primitive phase. You're gonna go through 3 phases.
And they fall a lot in this phase,
Yes.
correct?
So starting out in martial arts, women especially don't like to fail, right? We don't like to do things wrong.
They have a perfectionist brain.
And I'm just going to tell you right now, perfectionism is an excuse to fail. So when you constantly tell yourself, I need to be perfect, I need to be perfect, I need to be perfect, or I'm gonna quit, right? What's the alternative? If I can't do it perfectly, which you can't, you're gonna pick up your toys and go home. And you drop out and you quit. So I wanna make this very clear. One thing I love about martial arts, I walked in the door, recovering perfectionist. I walked in the door and they're like, here are your pads. You're gonna fall a lot. We're gonna teach you how to fall now. I'm like, I'm gonna learn how to fall? Yes, you're gonna learn how to fall a lot. And you're gonna learn how to get up safely really quickly. Because that's one of the most important things you can learn. And you're gonna learn how to not do it going forward.
So when you fail or when you fall,
It's not failing.
we want you to be curious, not furious about yourself. We want you to constantly be learning from the mistakes you make, so you make fewer mistakes over time.
And my challenge to you through this, every time, tell someone that every time you say the word fail, they point it out to you. We want you to start getting rid of that word. It's falling. You're not failing. So we want you to think of it as falling and get
All right,
up.
So they're going toward a yellow belt. What does that mean?
So yellow belt, this is like a defensive stage. So you're learning some skill, but you're learning more defensive moves. It's like, how do I not get hit by the things coming at me? You're not really learning how to hit back yet. So it's like defensive. It's still primitive. Yellow signifies like stains from sweat, hard work, and it still feels awkward and hard, but you have more of a sense that you will get it. There's more of a sense, oh, I'm gonna do this. I just have to practice a lot. So basics are the foundation. You have to like constantly go over those basics, and we're gonna do that with you. We're gonna be drilling the basics a lot. You're gonna learn what we call, so we're using this metaphor, so how to block, proper mechanics. So what does that mean in your health program? You're gonna learn how to get away from the things that are hurting you. So awareness, avoidance, and running really fast. Deflection. So you're gonna learn, again, to fall. And we think of this as, if you think about when you learned how to write, go back to when you learned how to write as a child. You're learning to write the alphabet. It's really hard. You're learning individual letters at first. There's no fluidity. There's no, it's just an A, a B. You're learning letters. Eventually it becomes sentences or words, and then sentences, and then paragraphs, and then a thesis, right, or whatever. So, but it starts off with letters, and it feels a little awkward.
And that's how it is in the beginning. So we're going to go over some very simple concepts, but as we go over time, they're going to become more complex, but you'll have the basic understanding for them. All right, so in week one, we're going to talk a little bit about mindset, actions, and we're going to give you the food rules, which are so important. So it's going to take us a month to sort of go through all 7 steps in some depth. So let's start with mindset. And you already started, is you have to know your why. Why do you have to be healthy? What motivates you to be healthy? So these are pictures of Tana and I, and Eli, my grandson, and Emmy, my granddaughter, and Liam with the big eyes. And the reason I want to be healthy, my why, is I love my family. And I want to be here. I never want to be a burden to my children. And I never want my children taking care of me. I love them.
Just be honest.
I don't want to live with them. I don't want them telling me, driving me around. I want to be independent. And we have somebody here tonight who's 95 years old, Evelyn. It's her birthday. And
Happy birthday, Evelyn.
Evelyn still drives. And Evelyn took your class. She still drives. She still lifts weights. She's working out. And, I love my life. And I love the mission I'm on. But I can only do it if I'm healthy. Right? You can't do anything else. So if you're a workaholic and you go, oh, I don't have time to work out, it's like if you're not healthy, you're not going to have time to do anything. So one of the things we want you to do is we want you to write down why you care, why you have to be healthy. So give some things you want to avoid. So like for me, I want to avoid Alzheimer's. I've seen that rip people's families apart. I don't want my kids caring for me. It's true, I don't. I want to avoid the dinosaur syndrome. I have fat genes. There are fat people in my family who I love dearly, but the reason they're fat and I'm not, it's not the genetic difference. It's the decision difference.
Yeah.
So those of you who go, well, I'm fat because everybody in my family's fat, forget it. You're fat because you're making the wrong decisions. And you don't want cancer again. I mean, there are clear reasons. So write down the things you want to avoid, because people are motivated often by avoiding pain, but also write down, well, what do you want? For me, it's great energy. It's make good decisions at work, so my income's good. It's to be there for my children and my grandchildren. I have a granddaughter, some of you know, who's been sick, and if my brain's healthy, I will be her sheepdog. And if it's not, I'll be a burden on my kids, and I don't want that.
One that I would add to that for me is to build your reserve. There's no guarantees you're not going to have something tragic happen at some point, but the more reserve you have, the more likely you are to be able to fight it. So I want to be able to kick butt.
So write down your why, and then put it up where you can see it every day. Some of you know my good friend, Pastor Rick Warren. He and I and Mark Hyman developed the Daniel Plan. And even though he had good information, initially he lost a lot of weight and then he gained it back. He had a bad, severe tragedy in his life. And it was last Christmas, where his wife had actually been following the Daniel Plan, the program that we designed, and she sort of got after him a little bit, and she said, you know how hard it was for me after we lost our son to suicide. If I lose you because you're just making bad decisions, I'm going to be really mad at you. And so Rick's why is he didn't want Kay, his wife, to suffer from his death, which he could have prevented by making good decisions. And since that time, he's lost 42 pounds. And I see, as I talk to him, his mindset has changed. So why do you have to be healthy? If you don't know your why, you won't do the what.
I want to add something really important to Rick's story because I think it's powerful. He's world famous. I mean, he's a huge leader. And it's easy to look at someone who's leading a tribe or a community of any kind and say, well, they're not doing it, or they're hypocritical, or they're failing, or they're whatever. We all have these judgments we make of people. I just want to point out, you don't know what that person's going through. We don't know what that person's experiencing. Because when I learned, and I'm not going to get into it, the other side of that story, I will tell you, it was really different from what people think. But the other thing is once Rick was able to tap into it, and once Rick was able to go up on, to the podium and tell people his story and be vulnerable, it was so powerful. So when you can actually just own it and go, okay, here it is. None of us are perfect. I don't care who your greatest mentor is. You're going to see them mess up. Just know that there's another side to that story. Be supportive.
So your homework between now and next week is to do what I think of is one of the most powerful exercises I've ever given any of my patients.
And so simple.
I developed it 30 years ago. And what it is on one piece of paper or on a computer form. We have an online program called Brain Fit Life where you can do it. It'll walk you through it. Write down what you want for yourself. It's called the One Page Miracle. Initially, it was called Goals. But then my patients who did it, it transformed their lives. Because most people just go day to day without really deep thought.
No intention.
Or intention. And this helps to make your life intentional.
This is one of those things I would put on that board that I would keep up in front of you because this is important.
So what do you want in your relationships? Because if they're not healthy, you're not going to be healthy. With your spouse, with your kids, with your family. Mine is really clear with you. I want a kind, caring, loving, supportive, passionate relationship. But I don't always feel like that. But it's always what I want. So when I don't feel like that and I get tempted to say something I shouldn't say, I go, okay, does this help you get you what you want. So it's not that I should or shouldn't do it. It's, does it serve me?
And it also helps you get back on track. No, not you. Not you specifically. People.
they're reading way too much into this.
No, I'm saying if you are on a health program and you get off track,
We're going to
that's
get
what I'm
there.
referring to.
So we want to know what you want for work, what you want for your money. This is really important to have goals. And what do you want for your physical, emotional, and spiritual health? So when you're looking at the cupcake and you're going, okay, so where is the cupcake on my goals? Will it help me get healthier mentally, physically, spiritually, and quite frankly,
Not
it's a
one
weapon
thing.
of mass destruction. So the one-page miracle is so important to fill out, and that's your homework between now and next week. So that's mindset. There's a lot more on mindset that we're going to cover.
We're going deep over the next 26 weeks. We're giving you like the crash course for a little bit for today, so you guys can get started.
The next part of mastery, developing mastery over your mind and body, is assessment. You can't change what you don't measure. And here at Amen Clinics, we do brain health assessments. We use SPECT that looks at blood flow and activity. We've talked about that. We also, on Brain Fit Life, we test your brain. We do a test called Web Neuro. It's like, well, where is my attention, my memory, my focus, my impulse control, my mood, my anxiety? There's a free brain health assessment that you can do. There's a link on the online platform. It'll tell you what the overall health of your brain and then what brain type you have. We're going to talk more about that next week. We also want you to know your important numbers.
So this is really important. So as you go into your important numbers, there's a reason why we want you to do this. This is your chance to really customize the program to you. So, okay, I'm just going to say one thing about sustenance, even though we're not there. Your body doesn't care about your food philosophy, and neither do we. But this is one of the ways that we can measure, oh, where are you? If you're a vegan or you're a caveman, are you getting enough of the right nutrients? So this is one way to know. Say your body mass index is going to tell us if you're on target for the right, weight to height ratio. Your blood pressure, we need to know that so that we can, know whether we need to decrease your blood pressure, because high blood pressure is associated with lower blood flow to the brain. So we've got to decrease
strokes
that.
And
lots of bad things.
And as you said, 50% of Americans are diabetic or pre-diabetic. 60% of Americans have hypertension or are pre-hypertensive.
Right.
So it's a very important number for you to know on a regular basis, because even if you're pre-hypertensive, it's associated with brain atrophy.
And we want to know your fasting blood glucose, because that's really important, not just for your brain, but for diabetes and every blood vessel in your body, really. But even more so than that, we're going to get them both, but is hemoglobin A1C, because that is the combination, that's the average of what your blood sugar's been doing over the last 3 months. Really important to know, because it's really the overall health of your body, and how, not only that, but how quickly your body's aging. It's an indicator for that. So important to know, and whether or not you're headed for diabetes. So cholesterol, you don't want your cholesterol too high or too low, and if you can, you don't have to in this assessment, if you have the opportunity to get an extended profile, how high or how low your cholesterol is isn't really the end all anymore. What we really want to know, or what you should want to know, is what kind of cholesterol you are making. Big fluffy molecules, small dense molecules, far more important to know. C-reactive protein, it's a measurement of inflammation. So we want to know, are you chronically inflamed? Inflammation is really good. If you get an injury, you need a little bit of inflammation to heal that injury, but you don't want chronic inflammation going on in your body over a long period of time, because think of a low burning fire. It's just damaging organs.
So inflammation actually comes from the Latin word for fire. Like
Flame.
you said, like you have
Right.
a low-level fire in your body that damages all of your organs.
So that's not a good thing. That's why we want that number. And sometimes we have doctors push back a little bit on why do they want C-reactive protein and homocysteine. Same thing with homocysteine. It's an indicator of heart function as well as inflammation. So there's a reason we want these numbers for you. And then vitamin D. So I just want to say a quick thing about vitamin D, thyroid, and testosterone, and you can go into the percentages. But those three numbers, most people are low in vitamin D. We find so many of our people who are having trouble and struggling with their brain and their weight that end up with thyroid dysfunction. They have thyroid dysfunction and they never knew it. And testosterone, it's just so important even for women. And if one of those three numbers are off, I don't care what program, try that again. I don't care what program you are doing, long term you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle with those programs. Because if vitamin D, thyroid, and testosterone are not right, you're going to struggle with obesity, depression, diabetes, so blood sugar.
Weakness,
Right.
dementia.
Memory.
This is so important. And for all of these numbers, and in our books, we list them and we list, what's normal and what's optimal. So for example, with vitamin D, the normal range is between 30 and 100. And most doctors, if it's 32, they're absolutely fine with it.
If it's 28, they're fine.
And we're horrified by it because I never wanted to be at the bottom of any of my classes. And there's a brand new study out just last week that said if your number is below 20, and when I first did mine, it was 17. And vitamin D, you get from the sun, it converts through your skin. And my original number was 17. And I live in Southern California where there's the sun all the time, but I'm working all the time like many of you. If your number is below 20, compare it to someone who's above 40, you have a 67% increased risk of cancer. So low vitamin D levels are associated with heart disease, cancer, diabetes, depression,
Nothing good.
and dementia.
Yeah.
And so how easy is it?
It's like one of the
Get
easiest
your
things you can
level checked. It's a simple blood test. And if it's low, get more sun or take a supplement. When I did my first health class, we measured 50 people with who are overweight. 49 of them
Yeah.
had low levels of vitamin D.
And
one
you'll crave
reason
more food.
is if you're overweight, you're not going outside in your bathing suit because you're embarrassed.
And you're
So
wearing
you're
sunscreen.
covering up and wearing sunscreen.
But you'll have more cravings also.
Right. And you talked about thyroid, that when you had thyroid cancer and they took thyroid away
Oh
from
no,
you.
I thought I was going crazy for one thing.
Right.
But zero energy. I went from working out every day to not being able to climb a flight of stairs or brush my teeth without just total fatigue and weakness. But no one told me that was going to happen.
Which is
so if you
crazy.
don't know,
And testosterone, people think of it as the male hormone, but it's important for females. Yes, it's involved with libido, but it's also involved with strength,
Memory.
with energy, vitality, memory, mood. So you want to know what your level is. And then omega-3 fatty acid levels, we've been testing people's blood for that. And the first 50 people I did, who are our patients that were not taking an omega-3 fatty acid supplement, were dramatically low. It actually horrified me because the standard American diet, think of that, what does that stand for?
sad.
The standard SAD American diet is deficient in omega-3 fatty acids, which help you. So we're going to go through these numbers
So
in greater
really
detail.
quickly, omega-3 fatty acids, same thing. It's responsible for hundreds of functions in the body, and if it's low, you will experience problems, not only mentally, but skin problems and digestive problems, which we'll dig into. But this is why, when doctors ask, why do they want to know this? There's a reason why we want to. You're not taking an average weight loss class, okay? We're going to empower you with information so you can be your own best advocate.
So know your important numbers. They're actually critical. I'll tell you this fun story. Mark Laser and I are friends. Mark is an incredible addiction specialist. He's world famous for that. And we were in Nashville together speaking. And he has diabetes. And I saw him inject himself with insulin at the table. And then I saw the absolute horrible chicken fried steak with gravy and mashed potatoes and bread dinner that he was ordering. And I love him. And I said, Mark, how tall are you? He said, I'm 6 feet. I said, how much do you weigh? He said, 243 pounds. And so I got my phone out and I calculated his BMI. And I'm like, dude, you're obese. Your BMI is 33. And he said, Daniel, you're so cold. And I said, buddy, not nearly as cold as you're going to be when you're 6 feet under. And so it was sort of an uncomfortable dinner, which I've had more than one or two of them, for the people I love. And
You'll get that way too, don't worry.
the next month, he lost 10 pounds. And then 2 years later, I'm at the same conference with him, and he looked phenomenal. And I'm like, what happened? He said, thank you for having that hard conversation with me. He was down 53 pounds. His dose of insulin, and he had type 1 diabetes, was half. So he's on half the dose of insulin. And so I asked him, because a lot of people go, Brain Warriors Way, that must be so hard. I'm like, hey, was it hard? He said, no, being sick was hard.
Yep.
Having no energy was hard. Having no libido, no memory. That was hard. This is easy. This is fun. And he and his wife do it together. And I couldn't be more proud of Mark. So you want to know your important numbers. Now, if you guys can put that slide up of the lab test, we can help you with it. So you can take that list of important numbers and go to your own doctor and get it. Or you can actually have a consult with one of our doctors. We had negotiated a very special price with LabCorp. LabCorp is all over the U.S.
Just because of our volume.
And so if you go to the online program, it'll actually have information there that you can download. We'll also send you soon an email about it. So in assessment, know the health of your brain, know your important numbers. And then the third way is you want to assess and fight the war on multiple fronts. This is, I think, one of the biggest innovations that Tana and I made. Your brain does not get sick in one way, and it won't get better in one way. We need a multiple mechanism approach. And so we use omega-3 fatty acids to decrease inflammation, like you talked about, and help your mood. We use ginkgo and vinpocetine to boost blood flow. B vitamins, especially for people who are on birth control pills, and something called acetyl L-carnitine and phosphatidylserine for multiple reasons, but nutrient loading is a good way to put it. Huperzine A boosts acetylcholine, alpha lipoic acid helps blood sugar stabilization, and N-acetylcysteine for antioxidant support. I actually put all of those supplements in this program called Brain and Body Power Max, which we'll talk about. But whenever you're taking one thing, like, oh, I take ginkgo for my memory, forget it. Even though I like ginkgo, the prettiest brains I've ever seen have taken ginkgo, but we need to do so much more. One of my favorite stories, I did an NBA challenge with NBA referees. We did a Love My Brain challenge, which was great fun. And Bob Delaney is now the head of referees, referee development. He's dropped 20 pounds. He's got to buy new clothes. And I was sitting with him at a basketball game, and I asked him why. And he had married a beautiful younger woman, and and as we were talking about it, I'm like, oh, I know why you should be healthy. You don't want to get her ready for the next guy after you're dead.
That's just
and
me.
he's like, boom, right between the eyes. You just got to figure out what the why is. And Brain and Body Power Max was part of that. So we have a very special offer. We
actually don't normally do this. So this is for our tribe, for anyone joining us in this program.
So if you go to brainmdhealth.com for this next week, if you type in welcome BWW, that's the code, you'll get 20% off your entire purchase, including things like Brain and Body Power Max, which is one of our supplement systems that we usually don't give
So
discounts
yeah,
for.
we give discounts for other things, but we've never given it for this system. And we know that people in the program, if you are looking for a supplement, we want you to be able to have access
And
to
that's
it.
one of our favorite. Okay, sustenance.
So
You're the food girl.
the food of a warrior. So warriors eat to win. It's that simple. I love, in our new books, we have a section on ancient warriors, and I was
So maybe
fascinated.
they don't know about our new books. Coming November 22nd.
Brain Warriors
we have
Way.
two, Brain Warriors Way and the Brain Warriors Way cookbook. We'll tell you more as the weeks go on.
And one of my favorite parts was I have a section in there on ancient warriors, and it was fascinating. They were not like our warriors now, where they got all-you-can-eat Baskin Robbins. it was very interesting when you talked about it being a national crisis,
National security crisis.
He's not kidding.
70%.
70%. Go ahead.
70% of people trying to sign up for the military are turned away.
Right, because they
of
can't
health problems.
pass. Right.
This is
or they're
a
obese.
national security crisis.
But in the past, ancient warriors ate for one reason, and they weren't kidding. It was to win. If it didn't affect them, if it affected them negatively when they were, in a war, they just did not, when they were training, they did not eat it. And I just thought that was fascinating. So this is Angie. She is one of our warriors. Hopefully Angie's watching tonight. But Angie was a prisoner of war. She was put into Jenny Craig when she was 8 years old. And she was extremely frustrated, had a lot of anger about that. She had a lack of her entire life focus and follow through, migraines, rosacea, dizziness, ovarian cysts, and digestive issues, and brain fog. And she was ruled by anxiety and depression. But above all, the thing that was horrible for Andy is she felt ridiculed. She didn't like herself. She was angry all the time, and she felt like a failure because she didn't know why she could not stay on any program. And when someone gave her our program, they said, maybe you should look at this. She said, it's why? It's just another program I'm going to fail. But I love what she said, because as she started to get into the program, she said, I realized almost immediately, she said, I was sort of hooked, and I kept reading. She said, you mean it's not me? It's what food has been doing to me. And I had hope for the first time, because what you eat matters. So this is Angie, 14 months later. She lost 103 pounds. That's her. And I just had the honor and pleasure. So I've been working with her via, emails and Facebook and things like that for over a year, and I finally got to meet her. And when we were just on the East Coast at one of our clinics, and it was wonderful. She looks amazing and just vibrant and beautiful.
And this isn't the Biggest Loser sort of thing.
No.
We're not beating you up.
No.
It's not
That is
for
the
quick
opposite
weight loss.
of what
it's
we do.
for a lifetime. And to see her glow
She was vibrant.
last week, we were so
It was the highlight of
excited.
my trip. So she lost 103 pounds. Her digestive issues went away, her ovarian cysts, but she had the highest confidence she's ever had, and I love that. Her mind cleared up, and she said, even when I struggle now with moods, she said, it's not like I never struggle with moods, it's just, or mood swings, but now I have control. And that's what we want. We want to empower you so you have control. She said she was strong and not sick, and she was able to forgive. Because she forgave herself, she's now able to forgive others. And so it just changed her whole life. And she ended it this way. She said, thank you. She goes, I would tell you thank you for giving me my life back, but you didn't give me my life back because this was never my life. She said, she's like, it's like I have a whole new life. So it was beautiful. So we're going to make this really simple. We're going to dig in over the next 26 weeks, but we're going to give you the overview so you can get started. These are our food rules. We got to make it simple. So think of a plate with 70% plant-based foods and 30% high-quality protein. It's that simple. 70% plant-based foods, 30% high-quality protein. Even if you're a vegan, okay, let's make it clear you still need protein several times a day. You're just going to get it from different sources, and we'll get into that. And it's not low-fat. Got to make simple rules. So simple a child will understand. Yes, that is mine making fun of me, but she is doing it. So that is all we care about. So the first one is high quality calories, because when you eat high quality fuel, or when you fill your body with high quality fuel, you get to eat a whole lot more. And I don't know about you, but we like to eat. So we're not going to suffer. And being as active as we are, we need that high quality fuel. Your brain is 80% water. You need to water it every day. So drink about half of your body weight in ounces. So if you're 120 pounds, just for quick math, it's about 60 ounces. Okay?
So
You're
this is
drinking my
called
water.
Brain Boost on the Go. Something we make to help me
He doesn't
drink
like water, so we have to trick him into drinking water. And don't drink your calories. So the average American actually drinks about 450 calories a day. That's increased dramatically. And so we want you to not drink your calories. Focus on just hydrating your body with wholesome water and hydration. And interesting study done with pilots. Pilots who are dehydrated by 2%, just 2%, actually it affected their decision making, their cognitive functioning, and their spatial reasoning. Not a plane I
That
want
would
to
be
be
a
on.
bad idea.
So when we were speaking the other day, there was a flight attendant in the crowd, and she said, "I'm so glad you told me that study." She said, "I'm going to make sure that these pilots always have water." So anyways, this is one of the quickest ways to boost your physical strength and your brain, because it increases your physical strength by 19% when you are hydrated. When you go to the gym, you're going to be stronger. Studies show 19%, and it also increases your cardiac output and your aerobic capacity.
So if you're just looking for the one thing to do, start
Today.
drinking more water.
Right now, drink water. That's why we always have water. So this is a scan of a very famous health coach who came in after a photo shoot, which they commonly dehydrate themselves so that they look all ripped.
So he was a bodybuilder too.
Right, and they're all ripped, right? So he came in all dehydrated, not realizing how bad it is for your brain. And if you take a look at the images on your left, that is his brain dehydrated. But he's fairly competitive, and when he realized how bad his brain looked dehydrated, he came back the next day. That's 24 hours later when he's hydrated.
Yeah, because I had asked him if he was doing cocaine.
Yeah, that's what his brain looked like. When you're dehydrated,
No,
that's
I
what.
promise, I swear.
Yeah, that's how bad it was. So it makes that much of a difference, which means it's affecting the way you think as well,
The way
Like-
you think, the way you act,
the way you feel.
the way you interact.
So high quality protein, make your protein really clean. So hormone-free, antibiotic-free, grass-fed, free range. Yes, it's a little more expensive and you're gonna be eating a little less of it, and we're gonna get into lots of tips over time on how you can do this on a budget. So it can be
the
done.
why of that, because people go, well, why do I have to do that? Is because you eat whatever the animals or plants you eat ate. And so if they're taking hormones, you get those hormones. If they're taking antibiotics, you get the effects of those antibiotics. If they're eating grain that has been raised with pesticides, so stay with me, then you're getting those pesticides in your body, which damage your gut, which then damages everything. So there's science behind absolutely every one of the recommendations
Right.
we're making for you.
So we'll get into all types of protein that you guys, to make it easy and budgeting and all that, but think turkey and chicken that are free range. Actually, lamb is really good for omega-3 fatty acids, thank God, because we love lamb. Nuts and high protein veggies. And if you're vegan, think of organic tofu and plant-based protein powders. If you're vegetarian, some eggs to help you supplement. Healthy fats. The fat-free craze was the worst thing that ever happened to the American diet, to the American people, actually. It made us fatter and sicker than we've ever been. So make no mistake, this is not a low-fat diet. People always ask me, how much fat do you eat? Honestly, probably between 450 and 500 calories of my diet a day at least comes from fat. If I calculate it out, it's probably a little more than that. And we're going to tell you why over time. So eliminate bad fats. So trans fats, think of trans fats like that's processed food. It's fried food, the cheap fats, hydrogenated
partially
fats.
hydrogenated foods.
Right, and by the way, those types of fats damage your cell lining and they never go away. You can't get rid of it. So that's why it's really important.
That's gross. Oh my God.
Yes, am I trying to scare you? I'm trying to scare you.
All those times I ate bad food,
So you have to do a
I'm
lot of making up for it now.
doomed.
You just have to do lots of good things now. So focus on healthy fats like omega-3 fatty acids especially, so fish, fatty fish like salmon, but avocados, nuts, and seeds.
My dad's an avocado grower.
I know because I get the avocados. I'm the lucky one. So low-fat diets are not good for your brain.
Because 60% of the solid weight of your brain is fat. There's this really cool study from the Mayo Clinic that looked at people who had a healthy fat-based diet. So fish, healthy oils, nuts, seeds, avocados. They had 42% less risk of getting Alzheimer's
And oh, by the
disease.
way, studies show that people who eat more fat in their diet stay on their programs because you're satiated.
What does that mean?
It means you're satisfied.
Oh, I knew that.
Those of you in other countries.
People who are on a protein-based diet had 21% less risk of Alzheimer's disease. But people who were on a carbohydrate-based diet, think bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, fruit juice,
Which, by the way,
which
is all sugar.
Unwrapped sugar. And sugar had a 400% increased risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. It's the sugar, not the fat. It's the simple carbohydrates, not the protein. You want to get your blood sugar balanced, and how you do that is you get rid of sugar and you have protein and healthy fat at every
So
meal.
that bowl of rice right there, the next time you think about like, oh, I'm going to go have some veggies over rice, I want you to just look at it and go, I think I'm going to go eat some veggies over a big giant bowl of sugar. Because that's what you're eating.
This is so important. And we're going to teach you how to eat low glycemic carbohydrates because they are not the enemy. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. It's the high glycemic, low fiber carbohydrates that are the enemy and the weapon of mass destruction.
Right. So we want you to think about smart carbohydrates. So it's not no carbohydrates, it's smart carbohydrates. So vegetables and then more vegetables and more vegetables. A little bit of fruit, but you got to cut out the simple carbohydrates. So high fiber, low glycemic. And I was thinking about something as we were walking through the airport the other day. Have you ever noticed that all the French baguette, all the French bread places, they are smarter than we are because they spell bread P-A-I-N. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, they knew that a long time ago. They figured that out. They spell it pain. So, anyways, so this is a really interesting study. It actually shows that Oreos, which really means sugar, and trans fats combined, when they are in certain combinations, are more addictive than cocaine and morphine. According to this study, they're actually more addictive because that little pleasure center in your brain is called the nucleus accumbens. That's what gets lit up with cocaine and morphine. But guess what? Sugar in that study lit that part of your brain up with more cells. The cells got more lit up and more of them got lit up than the drugs did. It's a really important point.
So feeding drug addicts in a
Recovering
drug
drug
rehabilitation program, fruit juice and donuts and sugar cereals.
We're
in the
keeping that
morning
addiction center just
is
wired.
actually keeping it's impairing their ability to get
Make great
well.
decisions too. So avoid sugar substitutes. So, you know, we don't like aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, maltitol, although sucralose, which is the little yellow packet, actually a really great product. I actually really like it. Believe it or not, it's actually really good. So next time you get an ant infestation, go get, no joke, go get that. That's what they were trying to create. So they were trying to come up with a pesticide. And the lab technician didn't understand English very well, and they said, go test it. He thought they said, go taste it. Because I always wondered to myself, how did they figure out to make that, you know?
How did they taste that?
Right.
A pesticide
Whoever
they were
decided to
creating.
taste it the first time. So we do like stevia and erythritol. We're going to get into that more over time. We're not going to go into the details today. But as for sugars, a sugar is a sugar is a sugar, because all of you are going to ask me, what about maple syrup and honey? So my one gripe with the paleo diet is it's like, oh, well, it's natural, maple syrup and honey. You can just have as much as you want. No, you can't. Stay away from agave. It's toxic to your liver. Maple syrup and honey are not, we don't believe in all things in moderation. Some things need to be minimal, okay? It's not a no zone, it's not a no-fly zone, you just want to stay very minimal with those.
So you said something really important, which is
The word you hate?
moderation, right? If you think to yourself everything in moderation, the Coke, the licorice, the donuts, what you're really doing is giving yourself permission to do the wrong thing. Everything in moderation is the gateway thought to hell. So brain warriors are not everything in moderation. Cocaine in moderation is a bad thing. Having affairs in moderation is a bad thing. And I want you to kill the sugar before the sugar kills you.
Yeah, so that doesn't mean that everything is black and white, but it means some things mean minimal, and we're not kidding. So eat from the rainbow. So that means many different colors, fruits and vegetables of many different colors, because they boost antioxidants to your brain. Makes your brain happy, keeps you younger. So you want to focus on that, but not an artificially colored rainbow. So this is a scan. This is a real scan of a little boy. The mom realized that every time this kid ate something red, he became violent and angry, and he would have these outbursts, and he would get in trouble in school, and he would have all these problems. And so she brought him in, and we scanned him before and after eating something red. Red food dye. And this is what happens. It's like a little explosion in his brain. Herbs and spices, if you're going to start cutting back on things like sauces and things like that, this is going to be really helpful to you. You want to make your food really flavorful. They're also medicinal. They should be kept in your medicine cabinet instead of your kitchen cabinet. And I mean, people have fought wars over herbs and spices, since herbs and spices have been around. So they've been more valuable than jewels, and there's a reason. It's because they are so good for you. Garlic and oregano boost blood flow to the brain. Saffron has antidepressant effects. Curcumin, especially when it's mixed with vitamin D, decreases beta amyloid plaques.
We have a new curcumin coming out soon.
Oh, fun. Cool.
It's
I
one of
actually
the
didn't know.
best.
So rosemary, thyme, and sage enhance memory. Ginger, cayenne, and black pepper boost metabolism. And cinnamon boosts attention. And you put that back in, the aphrodisiac for men.
Well, because my mom's here. And when I
Oh.
first told her that, she hit her forehead and said, "That's why I have 7 children." He would never leave me alone
We're
because
Lebanese.
Lebanese cook with a lot of cinnamon.
Right.
But you have this chicken wing recipe that has a little bit of cinnamon. Is that
Nutmeg,
because
yeah.
I'm not giving you enough love?
Seriously? Really?
Just checking.
That's why I took that out of there, because I'm like, that doesn't need to be in there for most men. But anyways, you keep putting it back in. So finally, lose potentially.
This is one of the most important
Absolutely.
slides. Now, on this program, you get to eat so many amazing things, and Tana has literally hundreds of recipes.
400.
This is about abundance, not deprivation. It's delicious, but there are offenders that need to go away.
So we don't like to call it an elimination diet. We like to call it a replacement diet. So replace, don't erase, because the minute you say I have to get rid of something, it's like, oh, don't think of the color blue. All you think about is color blue. So we don't want you to do that. We're going to replace them with so many great things, you're not going to have to really worry too much about it. But we have more results by doing this one thing. So get rid of sugar and artificial sweeteners, almost all processed foods, gluten, found in wheat, barley, and rye, most grains, which we're going to talk about, dairy, milk, cheese, yogurt, soy, and corn. And I know most of you are sitting there going, that's like, what else is left? That's my whole house. Believe me, that's why I've written 400 recipes, and we're replacing it. There's plenty you can eat. This is an example of our average day of food. We like to eat. We don't expect you to starve. So there's many delicious things you can have. We start off with a big quarter calf cappuccino in the morning with almond milk. We have a smoothie or my Tanana pancakes, because that's what my little grandson calls me, Tanana. So they have no wheat in them. Always have to have, a nice, healthy, protein, fatty snack in the afternoon, healthy fat. Big salad with some protein in the afternoon, or some kind of leftovers. We do leftovers for everything. Green tea, love green tea. And like I said, another snack. I'm not going to suffer. So something like a pumpkin protein bars, just one example. Many different options for dinner. That's my lemon garlic shrimp. And dessert. So that's a protein chocolate mousse. So you're not going to go hungry. We're going to teach you how to do this, and it's going to be fun. So we want you to model healthy behaviors. This is one of our own doctors in Washington, D.C., Rishi Sood. And, you know, doctors get pretty beat up. So in their defense, they get pretty beat up in medical school. And he's no different. And through the process, he ended up, you know, we're teaching them to help other people, but they're not helping themselves. So he ended up gaining a lot of weight. But he realized that when he came to work for us, he's like, wow, I'm telling people how to get healthy. It's like a little off. So he realized he was a hypocrite. And so he set goals, just like we're going to teach you to do. He stuck with them. He read Daniel's book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. He read my book, The Omni Diet. He literally makes it so simple, he sticks to the grocery list. That's it. He's busy. So that's what he does. He sticks to the grocery list, and he lost 57 pounds. So
He's a warrior. I mean, he's just
And now
serious.
he's,
and we
like,
asked him, I had
passionate.
dinner with him on Sunday night, and I said, well, is this hard? He said, no. He said, you're already in a routine. So whatever you have in your life, you're already in a routine. You just have to shift to a new routine.
Right.
And he said, things taste better because my taste buds came back when I stopped
That's
killing
what
them with all
everybody
the
says.
processed food.
within 2 weeks, like a carrot tastes sweet. So this is
So-
Chloe's game.
So, Chloe and I are buddies, and ever since she was 2, she and I have played this game together, and we call it Chloe's game. And it's just a simple question: is this good for my brain or bad for it? And that's ultimately what you have to ask yourself. So, brain warriors play this game every day. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? So, if I would say avocado, she would say 2 thumbs up, God's butter. If I'd say blueberries, now she has red hair like her mother, so she's sort of attitudinal. And so if I said blueberry, she'd put her hands on her hips and she'd go, are they organic? Because non-organic blueberries hold more pesticides than almost any fruit. And if I say, of course they're organic, she'd go, oh, 2 thumbs up, God's candy. And if I said, talking back to your redheaded mother, oh, thumbs down, way too much stress. You just have to know the list, right? So what's the list of what's good for you, and what's the list of what's bad for you? Brain health ultimately is 3 things. Brain envy, you have to care about it, avoid anything that hurts it, and do things that help it. So if you can just think of it that simply, you know, sleeping 8 hours, well, that's good for your brain. Sleeping 4 hours, that's bad for your brain. I was actually her 2nd grade class. Remember this? I
Yeah.
went in and I gave a lecture, and we played Chloe's game. I taught it to them. And, you know, I'd put up like 15 things on the board, and it's like good for your brain or bad for your brain. And they got everything right. This isn't hard except one. They put orange juice in the good category when it really belongs. Oranges belong in the good category. Orange juice belongs
Yeah.
in the bad category. So, what are the takeaways that we want you to think about from tonight? Your mindset matters. This is about abundance, never deprivation. Only if you love yourself and only if you're serious. We want you to optimize, not normalize your important numbers, and food is medicine or it is poison. Food fuels success or drives failure. So your homework, we want you to fill out the Brain Warriors Way information sheet that's on the online program. That's very important to us because we want to see your transformation over this 6 months. And so you got to know where you're starting. We want you to get your important numbers checked, work on that as quickly as you can, because when you get those numbers, you'll be horrified, many of you, it will change your behavior.
Go ahead.
Review Tana's food rules or our food rules, and we want you to invite somebody next week. So they can sign up at brainwarriorswaylive.com, brainwarriorswaylive.com, and we're going to try to recruit many more people, and they can catch up because all of the lessons will be on the website.
So I want to add one thing. So you are going to want your pictures taken. Okay, so you're going to want your before pictures. And so we end up seeing people lose, like Angie, lose 103 pounds. And when we want to, it's like, oh, let us like, celebrate this with you. And now she's proud of herself and she can't find any. So we want you to get your before pictures now as you're getting started. Don't wait until you've, already lost 10, 15 pounds. Do it now because it'll mean something to you later. We've already been through this. We know that. So that's one thing. Try and do that this week for sure. If you're in the class, stay afterwards and we're going to have someone take your photos if you want them to. And then normally we will have this extra session that we went over today. We're going to have time to answer more questions. Don't be disappointed. We're not going to get to all your questions tonight because a lot of you submitted questions. But because of how much time it took us to get you started for the week, we went over. So we're not going to answer as many questions week one.
Also, for our Brain Warriors Way members, if you want to come to one of our clinics, here's where the 6 clinics are, 3 on the East Coast, 3 on the West Coast. Literally, it's an investment that can change your life. We're going to give our members a 10% discount. You can call the number on the screen or go to amenclinics.com. And just as a reminder, anyone that's interested in any of our supplements from now until next Tuesday, you get a 20% discount if you put in the code WELCOME BWW. So we just couldn't be more excited to be on this journey with you. Thank you so much for being part of our community. Stay with us. It'll make a dramatic difference in your life and the lives of those you love.